Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of my weekly program, Double Standards, which I normally present on every Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. Today's topic is the corruption as a way of life. Has it become a way of life today, or still it is detested? A big question mark. In some areas, it is a way of life, but in others, there is even death penalty for mega financial scandals, and all those who are caught and prosecuted properly, they don't get away with the system because there is a death penalty in China and in Iran. Now, what is corruption, by the way? Corruption, if we use the thesaurus, it may be extortion, it may be fraudulency, fraud, venality, bribery, graft, malfeasance, and so many words if we use the thesaurus. But when we define, there's a universal definition of corruption. It is the dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power. That means in order to carry out corruption, we need three things. Number one, the rulers or the people in power. May they be through a proper democracy or through shambolic, farcical democracy such as we have in Pakistan. Number two, you need dishonesty, you need depravity, and you need immorality in the conduct and in the nature of the rulers. And that again, we see in abundance in Pakistan, amongst the Pakistani political elite. And number three, the supporters, the promoters and the facilitators of the realm of corruption. So we need these three things. But all these three things, they have been condemned by the Holy Quran. Let me quote from Surah Baqarah, and the verse number 188 that condemns, number one, the people in power who are corrupt. Number two, the people who have attitude, who have the nature as immoral, dishonest. And number three, all those who promote them and facilitate them. All these three are condemned by Holy Quran. I quote from Surah Baqarah, verse number 188. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَلَا تَعْقُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَدْلُوا بِهَا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ لِتَأْكُلُوا فَرِيقًا مِنْ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِالْإِثْمِ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. I translate that for you. And beware, do not grab each other's wealth illegally, and do not even hand it over to the rulers as bribe to obtain their consent to do so, especially when you know it is not yours. So this is how Quran condemns all three manifestations of corruption. The promoters, the facilitators, they are condemned by Quran. So the politicians, the bureaucracy, the academia, judiciary, all those people who are involved in facilitating corruption, they have been condemned by Quran. And when Quran condemns them, no one can salvage them. No one can grant them reprieve when Quran condemns them. So when Quran condemns them, we will have to say that all these people about whom there is a perception, there is a strong perception that they are corrupt, that their act of corruption must be termed as satanic evil act. So we have the plenty of politicians in Pakistan, the bureaucracy involved in this. Conversely, the executive corrupt the system, and the officials and bureaucracy at large, it facilitates corruption. And the weak judicial system helps the corrupt get away with it with no punishment. And who suffers in the end? Suffers eternally? The masses, the people who vote. But the thing is, we cannot only confine ourselves to Pakistan's political scenario and corruption that is aligned with it. So corruption and political system, the so-called diabolical democracy in Pakistan, they are intertwined. And that is going on for 25, 30 years. But this trend is not only replete in Pakistan. It is a way of life in the West. The most industrialized, the rich countries in the Western Europe, North America, Australia, even there, corruption is the integral part of life. The so-called democracy, flexible criminal justice system, and the clever, at times, selfish legal firms, they help the corrupt people to get away from the net of prosecution and judicial system. And sometimes even academic institutions, they also play their role in perpetrating the scourge of corruption, the corporate corruption. The powerful individuals, organizations, businesses, banking sector, bureaucracy, anti-corruption institutions, they're involved neck deep in corruption and misappropriation, but they get away with it. Either, there are two reasons how they get away with it. Either the prosecution breaks down at some stage, or the whole prosecution system, prosecutorial system, is faulty or is not carried out objectively. I have scores of examples to share with you, but we have got very little time today, where the mega corruption scandals, hundreds of them in the last 15 years or so, I mean the mega scandals involving tens of billions of dollars like WorldCom at the start of the 21st century, Xerox, and some massive banking sector scandals are there in large number. The RBS scandal, the Barclays scandal, all these banking sectors, and UBS scandal. I mean, these scandals are there. So it's not only the problem of Pakistan, a country that is seemingly in perpetual transition. So it's not only Pakistan, even the Western industrialized rich countries, they are replete in corruption. Now, I shall focus more today on Pakistan. Let's take a few examples. There are two major political families in Pakistan that are synonymous with corruption, malfeasance, venality, fraudulency. One is the Sharif brothers and other is the Zardari. Zardari alone is heavier than the Sharif brothers. But whenever whosoever comes to rule for 5 years tries to surpass the other one in corruption. So that's a game, that's a match, that's a competition between successive governments. So Nawaz Sharif and Shahbaz Sharif, their children and their family, supported by the stooges, the parliamentary stooges, the parliamentary slaves and parliamentary scavengers who scavenge whatever the Sharif brothers, they plunder in billions, and when they are plundering in billions, a few millions they drop down from their mouths, and the scavengers are there. They take that, and then what they do is throughout their parliamentary duration, they defend their masters, corrupt masters, in TV talk shows. And there are dozens of them at the central level, at the federal level, at the provincial level. Let me quote a few examples. A couple of years ago, I had an extended session with the then chairman of National Accountability Bureau, Admiral Retired Fassi Bukhari. We sat for several hours and we discussed that how the Sharif brothers, they plundered the national exchequer. They plundered even those funds that were there for the health, education, employment, counter-terrorism, and poverty alleviation. So these funds were there for these projects, for the emancipation of the people who vote for them. So these funds were for them. But these funds were plundered by the Sharif brothers in 1990s. So the cronies, friends, stooges, slaves, and scavengers, they made the sunshine. They made the full of the sunshine. And today they are beyond the arm of law. I'm talking about Safir Rahman, Muhammad Mansha, and other people who were the cardinal beneficiaries of the decade of 1990s, when this whole pell-mell of privatization of state sector or state enterprises that started. And this is carrying on even now. The big projects are undertaken, projects worth billions of rupees. They are started, initiated only because the kickbacks are there. A very little has been invested in health, in education, in employment, and tightening the security measures, cyber security, intelligence gathering, facilities, equipment, training of law enforcing agencies. So that is why the Punjab police hasn't evolved yet, even after 68 years. Punjab police, Sindh police, they haven't evolved as law enforcing agencies. They only do the 10% of their job, and they punish the weaker and the powerful people. They buy them. This is just like that the little thieves are hanged, but the greater thieves become sheriffs. So this is the situation in Pakistan. So Admiral Fasih Bukhari shared with me that the Sharif brothers had 20 major mega corruption scandals, and there was empirical evidence to prosecute them. But they are thriving on the stay orders. So the stay orders by the courts are keeping them afloat. So they are busy in corruption, corrupting the system, corrupting the people around it, all the institutions, and ensuring that nobody raises a finger on them. Another example I would like to give you. In 2004, I was driving the then National Accountability Bureau Chairman, Lieutenant General Munir Hafiz, from London to Nottingham, and we were driving on M1, and I asked him about a few most infamous cases about corruption, and the only few names he shared with me were Asif Ali Zardari and the Sharif brothers. And he shared with me that Sharif brothers, they had plundered only between 1996 in November, when they came into power, when Benazir Bhutto was removed in November 1996, and after the elections were held in February or March in 1997. So between February, March 1997 and 12th of October 1999, between these 2.5 years, the Sharif brothers, they plundered the national exchequer and the funds of the people in the range of $2 billion. But those cases are there in the NAB, in National Accountability Bureau. But these Hinduja brothers, they behave like the Indian business magnates, the Hinduja brothers. So these two Hinduja brothers, Shahbaz Sharif and Nawaz Sharif, they have left no stone unturned to make the exchequer, to make the people beg from DFID, beg from USAID, beg from GTZ, beg from JICA, SIDA, and other international donor agencies, the entire nation. So sometimes they borrow from IMF, they borrow from the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and the donor agency. They give them several hundreds of millions of dollars. But a lion's share of that, 25 to 50% of that fills the pockets of these Hinduja brothers. Nearly half a dozen senior officials in the National Accountability Bureau still are of the strong view that if these cases are properly launched in the courts, the Sharif brothers would be behind the bars. They would be behind the jails. But the soft, lenient judicial system is helping them to carry on prolonging their stay orders. And we have a very weak judiciary. Weak in a sense that there is a wrong selection procedure for selecting the judiciary. At the lower court level, because the civil judges who are at the tehsil level, district level, they are selected through an examination. And that examination predominantly is transparent because they start at grade 17, BPS 17, and gradually it takes them 20 to 25, 30 years to become a member of the provincial judiciary, and then another 5 years member of the federal judiciary. But the people who are directly inducted, they are the people where most of the fingers are raised on, because they are with 10 years to 15 years of experience in the courts. So they are handpicked. They are handpicked by the executive, by the political elite, by the government, the prime minister, the chief ministers, the governors, and the president. They appoint them. When they appoint them, they make sure that these judges, they become loyal to them. Sometimes the system, sometimes the ambiguity in the constitution is so much that these people, they get away with it. The judges, in order to enjoy their perks, salaries, comfortable houses, foreign scholarships for their children to study abroad, good cars, lot of petrol to run those cars, and TADAs, and job security. So these 5-6 factors, they make the judges as fully compliant to the executives who appoint them. So that's the reason. I mean, this is not only in Pakistan. In some cases, this has also been in the United States, in Britain, in France, Germany, and industrialized rich countries of the world, where the judges, because of their misconduct, but there is a transparency. If a judge, very recently, a district judge, a female, who hampered the course of justice, she was prosecuted and removed and sentenced. So in most cases, in these countries, if a judge is caught of misconduct, he is punished. Because the judicial system, by far, is transparent and judicious. And I can give you a few examples that a few people, I mean, recently they have been punished, like Judge Mark Cleverella was punished because of his misconduct. Another Judge, Thomas J. Maloney, is another infamous case. He was also punished and stripped of his power and status. Another judge was Michael Cicconetti, was punished. Another infamous case of Judge Kurt Eisgruber was punished when was caught of misconduct. And a very popular at one time female judge, Lisa Gorchika, she was caught of misconduct and was punished and sentenced. But the judges, like in Pakistan, even those judges whose character has been dubious, so many questions have been raised against their character, and they got away with it. Justice Maulvi Mushtaq, who hanged a politician who never committed a murder, but Maulvi Mushtaq hanged him. Another person, Justice Malik Abdul Qayyum, neck deep in corruption, perpetrating corruption, providing legal cover to the corrupt politicians. So got away with it. What he did was cleverly, one of his brothers joined the Muslim League N of Nawaz Sharif, and the sister joined the People's Party. So hence power came in the family. So whatever dark past of this guy, Justice Malik Abdul Qayyum, was there, he got away with it. No punishment. Other Chief Justice Chaudhry Iftikhar, with all the black past and the evil deeds of his son Arsalan, he got away with it. And then just the Khalilur Rahman Ramde, so many cases against him, a lot of objection against him, but he came clean. And the system was weak, and they are at large. So what happens is, there are scores of other sitting and retired members of the judiciary, both provincial, federal, and even the lower judiciary, the office holders. They have been found corrupt, but no punishment for them. If the courts play their role, that's a very interesting scenario now. If the courts play their role in punishing the culprit and not giving them stay orders, such as prolonged stay orders to the Sharif brothers, then half of the problem is solved straight away. The punishment is given just to set examples. Islam promotes and supports punishment to the culprit. If somebody is caught as a corrupt holder of the public office, must be punished. So, but the problem is the history of Islam, the history of Muslims. I mean, that is replete with examples where one person, a powerful ruler, even he denies the legitimate right to the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And again, the one who decided that wasn't infallible, he wasn't a masoom, so he could make an error. So, so injustice that took place. So the course of justice was hampered, impeded. So, but we come down to today's scenario. The weak, I beg your pardon, the weak, naive and vulnerable judicial system in Pakistan has created the political leaders like Sharif brothers. Nawaz Sharif, a pylon of ignorance, incompetence and malfeasance, but he is the strongest man in the country today. So has been created by our dubious judicial system. If the stay orders are revoked against him, we find him in the jail. That's the real place for him. The decrepit, venal and inert criminal justice system of Pakistan has created the politicians like Asif Zardari. Asif Zardari, everybody knows, an epitome of felony, debauchery and deceit. So these people, they get away with all the prosecution processes and procedures. So that's the reason. So the funds are there. Now a big question is being discussed. A big scenario is being discussed in the restaurants, in the public places, tea stalls in Pakistan's villages, union council level, tehsil level, district level, that should there be a capital punishment for that who is involved in massive corruption? The Western judicial system says no, there should not be a capital punishment. But what about the people who plunder the funds which were there to treat the people in hospitals? I can quote a few statistics. In the last 25 years, since 1991-1990, more than 50,000 people have perished in Pakistan because of malnutrition. The children, the elderly, because of malnutrition, because of lack of health facilities, lack of hospitals, medicines. These people, they have died needlessly. The funds were there. All these donor agencies, international donor agencies, they gave to the successive rulers billions of dollars for the emancipation, for the amelioration of socio-political, socio-economic lives of these people. But those funds, they fell into the deep pockets of the politicians. You see in Sindh, in Cholistan and Thar, in those areas, how many people have perished only in 2 years? The small children. But there is no punishment for them. So these hospitals, these schools, they could have been modernized in the last 25 years had these funds which were dedicated for these jobs, if they were spent appropriately, if they were spent honestly. But the politicians, they spent them on their own betterment. They became rich, and a large number of politicians who used to ride on the Vespa scooters and motorcycles and bicycles in 1980s and 90s, you find them, their children and them, in big houses, even in England, even in Britain, in UAE, in Dubai, in United States. They're billionaires there. So there are institutions even in the West. So there are questions to be asked them also. We have serious fraud office in the UK. It's a very simple thing. The evidence that the professionally corrupt politicians who are dexterous in their venal acts, they don't leave a trail behind. They do corruption smartly. They don't leave any evidence. But the most powerful evidence is you compare their existing living standards with the living standards they had 20 years ago, and easily investigate that and bring it to the public that such and such person is a billionaire today, is a multimillionaire today, has got big houses in almost every city of Pakistan, and has got property in the UK, property in the UAE, property in the United States. Just compare what he was 20 years ago. And if his lifestyle today is not commensurate with his resources, with his past 20 years ago, then that's the biggest evidence. Where the money has come, how much taxes has he paid? Has he declared his assets? Has he conducted his business in the last 20 years transparently? Has he paid all his dues, all his taxes, corporate taxes, business taxes, income taxes, and all the taxes which are there for the state? Then the evidence comes straightforward. That's a simple. That if somebody cannot prove that money, those assets he made, they should be termed as through corruption, through malfeasance, through venality, through bribery, and there must be a punishment for that. But when you don't punish these people, then the others are encouraged. And even small people, accountability, punishment, it starts from the head, from the top. If you punish these 10, 15, 20 big politicians, big bureaucrats, big businessmen, then the people who are in the lowest stratum of society, they will be scared of the arm of law. They will think 100 times before being indulged in corruption. It is normally said, the fish stinks from the head. So if you pick up the heads, if you pick up the powerful people and set an example before the public, punish them properly, then, but the irony is that the judicial system is flawed in Pakistan. If the judicial system is not based on adl, if the judicial system is not based on transparent justice, transparent equality, the justice should seem, it should be visible that such and such person has been prosecuted, punished, and no reprieve, then it's an example. Then the sharifs, if the justice system is based on adl, equality, and reward and award, then these people, the sharifs, zardaris, gilanis, rajas, chaudhris, ranas and maliks, they should be behind the bars. Imam al-Muttaqeen, Amir al-Mumineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, he mentioned this situation in his sermon number 15. Let me quote, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. فَإِنَّ الْعَدْلِ سَاعَةٍ وَمَنْ ذَاكَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَدْلُ فَالْجُورُ عَلَيْهِ أَزِيكُ. I translate it for you. Behold, complete and fulfill the requirements of justice. If one feels it cumbersome to fulfill the needs of justice, he will face more troubles in fulfilling the needs of injustice. This is said by the infallible Imam al-Muttaqeen, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, the biggest lawgiver after Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After him, the biggest lawgiver of all the times. And the standards of adl, standards of justice, standards of equality, fair play, social justice, economic justice, political justice, all these standards set by Mawla Muttaqin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, if they are followed, then we find the corrupt in the jail and the innocent having security about life, security about job, security about health, security about education, security and safety of his family and children. Corruption. And then, in the last 20 years, another important factor that joined them, a phenomenal trend that took place, was terrorism. And terrorism, a deep understanding and investigation of the causality of terrorism in Pakistan, if one carries out that research, and there are so many evidences that some political parties, some powerful political elites, they use terrorism as a weapon, as a tool to promote, to support their political designs, that come into power, sit in the parliament, and get all the camp followers, like-minded people, like the gargoyles on the main entrance of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. So these supporters of these powerful political elites, the Sharifs and Zardaris, they behave like gargoyles. They sit in the parliament and they support their leaders because they are the scavengers. If their leaders plunder billions, at least millions they come into their pockets also. And we have, the National Accountability Bureau, supported by the media reports, the electronic media report, the press reports of the last 10 years, they amplify that more than 50% of the current parliamentarians in Pakistan's National Assembly, in Pakistan's Senate, in Pakistan's provincial assemblies of Punjab, Sindh and elsewhere, they have conducted their business illegally. We have scores of loan sharks who took loans from banks and other financial institutions to the range of hundreds of millions of rupees, and they did not return. So the loan sharks we have, tax evaders who made billions of rupees from the system in Pakistan, but paid the taxes shamefully, only a few thousand rupees. So how you can justify that? If something is not consonant to, is not consistent with their lifestyle, that's a big case. Now, in the transparent societies where good governance is visible, there people are really punished when they conduct corruption to a mega scale. We have seen 3-4 years ago in China, 2 sitting powerful mayors of 2 prosperous regions, they were caught in 2011 and they were sentenced to death, executed. And recently, a couple of years ago, a person in China who was the railway minister in China with the name Liu Yijun, he was caught, prosecuted and sentenced to death. And you see, good examples are set, and the other people, they think if he is punished today, then if I am indulged in corruption, I will be punished. So that threat, so that check and balance environment, if that is there, then people will learn from the precedents. Let me give you a latest example. A few days ago, Iran's High Court in Tehran sentenced to death an oil-rich businessman with large oil conglomerate with the name Babak Zanjani. He was caught for amassing huge wealth in the range of $10 billion. He was caught, prosecuted, and he was arrested in December 2013. It took about 2 years and a bit over, but in the end, he did not get away with it. He was prosecuted, and a couple of days ago, along with his 2 accomplices, he was sentenced to death. So if these examples are set before the public, before the people, then the people will think 1,000 times before they indulge into corruption. Interestingly, when people, they are not punished for their black acts, for corruption, for malfeasance, then they will rule. So either they are in jail or they rule. There is no way in between. There is no place in between. And some people shamefully, the people like Asif Ali Zardari, these people, they shamefully claim openly that either they are in jail or they are in power. They are in jail not because of that they take out a rally against injustice, they take out a rally against tyranny. They go to jail for malfeasance, for corruption, for plundering. Even the money which is meant for the Hajj, for the pilgrims. Their sitting federal minister, Hamid Saeed Kazmi, he was sitting on a ministry of 100 billion rupees. He was caught, removed, prosecuted, but again, a stay order is going on. And again, the current Minister of Religious Affairs, he's also, there's so many fingers raised against me, Yusuf from Mansehra. So all these people are really there. If the punishment is there, then people think many times. But ironically, the people like Sharif brothers, Zardari, Raja Pervez Ashraf, Gilani, Hanif Abbasi, Rana Sanaullah, Rana Mashhood, Justak Malik Abdul Qayyum, Mia Mansha, Safar Rahman, Ishaq Dar, Altaf Hussain, the killers of Model Town, the killers of Hazara community, the killers of LDA Plaza, the killers of Abbas Town. These people all, they are sitting in the parliament. They are enjoying power. And they are busy in contriving new ways and means to kill people and to make money. If a proper judicial system is there, if these people are punished, then the people like Dr. Asim, Qayyum Sumro, Rahman Malik and Khurshid Shah, they should not be beyond the arm of the law. So we have to sit down and think as a nation that what sort of people we'll have to support at the time of elections, so that they go into the parliament, they modify, they bring amendments in the judicial system so that the corrupt is punished and the innocent is not arrested or put behind the bars. If you borrow £100, you go to the jail if you don't pay that. But if you borrow £100 million, you become a ruler. And that is the case in Pakistan. Classical example of Pakistan. So unless, we always say, kullukum ra'ikum wa kullukum mas'ulun an ar-ra'iyati. If we do not play our role of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar, then we are also part of the problem and not part of the solution. With this, I conclude my program for today. And next week, I'll come with another topic. And by then, say goodbye to you. Thank you very much for being with us.